Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here for this lunch and learn session about farm to school, topic near and dear to my heart for sure. And we are so pleased to have Annette Slonim here from WSDA. She's our state's farm to school lead. And today she's coming to us from Olympia, where there's a farm to school road show happening. And it sounds like fun. Again, if you have your mic on and you're not asking a question, would you please turn yourself on mute? Thank you. I also just want to let you all know right up front that the lunch and learn sessions are recorded, as I said. Those recordings are now living on the new www.fsp.org website, Western Washington Food Systems Partnership website. And you can go back and see previous recordings, the questions and answers that came from that, and the slides as well. So if you missed something, go to that location. All right, so Annette, why don't we get started and you just add to that introduction I gave you and continue on, and we'll have time for plenty of questions and answers and dialogue after Annette finishes speaking. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Marty and Emily, for having me. So my name is Annette Slonim. As Marty said, I am with the Washington State Department of Agriculture. I joined the agency about a year and a half ago, maybe a little over a year and a half ago. Before that, my background is really more on the direct side of farm to school. I worked for a number of years for school garden-based organizations, helping to start school gardens, provide professional development to educators on integrating food and ag education through hands-on learning and culinary classes. And then I worked for a couple of years for a local food hub, trying to get more local farm fresh food into schools and onto kids' plates before joining Department of Ag. So like as Marty said, this is also a topic very near and dear to my heart, and I feel very lucky to be able to work in farm to school and help support farm to school efforts across Washington. So the plan for today is it's gonna be a fairly high level conversation, and we'll have lots of time for questions, I believe, for nitty gritty, and if there's anything specific that you'd like to know more about. But what I'm gonna generally talk about is, what do we mean when we say farm to school? It can mean a lot of different things to different people, and it's always a good thing to kind of check in on what folks are referring to. I'll provide a little bit of a snapshot of what farm to school looks like in Washington. Some of the farm to school activities that have been happening over the last 10 to 15 years or so since the program within WSDA has been around. And then some current activities and opportunities to get involved to help advance farm to school in the state. My slides are going to go. Maybe. There we go. Okay. So as I mentioned, I work the Department of Agriculture and the Regional Markets Program, and the Regional Markets Program is really a combination of two programs: Small Farm Direct Marketing and Farm to School. These were created in state statute. And so our mission here is to support the economic viability of small and direct marketing farms and to increase the availability of Washington grown products in schools, institutions, and tables throughout the state. So farm to school is really seen as a key market opportunity to support farms as another potential revenue stream and market channel, while also improving the quality and the nutrition of food that's served in schools. Within WSDA, we really focus on the procurement side of farm to school. So this image comes from the National Farm to School Network, and farm to school writ large really is this holistic systems change effort that integrates education, school gardens, and procurement. So education really means applying hands-on education learning about food and agriculture, sustainability, climate change, kind of integrating these themes into core academic subjects. School gardens tie in there. So if you have a school garden program, kids are coming out and you're integrating lessons into math, science, ELA through hands-on experiential learning, getting to also understand plant life cycles, growing food, where your food comes from, and then procurement, which is actually getting more local foods directly from farms or as direct from farms as possible into school cafeterias. The focus within the WSDA Farm to School program has really been on the procurement piece, but there's lots of activity around school gardens and food and farm-based education and integrating farm to school concepts. That's really happening in schools across the state, but mostly what I'm going to talk about is the work that's been done to advance farm to school procurement. So why farm to school? So there's a three-legged stool of farm to school, and then we also talk about often the triple win of farm to school. So students win, farmers win, and communities win. When a school or a district participates in farm to school, studies have shown that students increase their consumptions of fruits and vegetables. Of course, this improved nutrition, increased participation in school meals, whether it's the breakfast program or the lunch program, can contribute to improved learning and better health and future food choices. On the school side, schools that are serving local foods and highlighting and promoting these products as part of their school meal programs often do see an increase in school meal participation, whether that's doing a special highlight feature, doing connecting a lesson, saying we're going to be serving local asparagus this week, and then doing a taste test in the classroom or bringing the farmer in for a visit. It's an opportunity to drum up excitement around that meal and have something, really see it as something special. So often schools will see an increased participation, which from a revenue standpoint is really critical to a school meal program. The more students that participate in school meals, of course, that's better for the students, but it's also better. It means that the school meal program has more money available to continue to make these types of local purchases. I mentioned these learning opportunities. So really connecting the food that's being served into the cafeteria to nutrition education or other academic subjects, depending on the age of the students. Of course, we're benefiting the local economy. Schools spend lots of money on food, and it's great to see more of those dollars directed into local farms and food businesses. And then higher quality, tastier food. Schools, they have tough clients, they're kiddos who are eating those foods, and having to contend with picky palates is not an easy thing to do. And so farm to school is an opportunity to serve kids really, really tasty, yummy food. On the farmer side, we often hear from growers that we had a farm to school event yesterday up in Mount Vernon, and Elizabeth and Kelly from Long Herring Farm in Rockport, Washington were there, and they talked about how that farm to school was really built into their kind of founding vision and mission of their farm, and this commitment to wanting to feed their community and feed kids in their community. And so we hear oftentimes from farmers and producers who participate in these types of programs that that's a core value of wanting to be able to provide good food to students in the schools that they serve. There's also an opportunity to teach kids about agriculture, either through farmer visits to the school or the cafeteria, or actually hosting field trips and bringing students out to the farm to, again, strengthen that connection and understanding what goes into growing this food and where this food comes from and what makes this product different than maybe what you might find at the grocery store or what schools are serving on non-farm to school days. And then it can be a stable market and offer an outlet for products that may not have other channels. So a lot of times, farms, once you develop a close relationship with a school district, you might have a surplus of this one thing, and you can call up a food service director and say, hey, I've got an extra X pounds of asparagus or potatoes or sweet peppers, could you use this next week? And the food service director will say, great. So it can be an outlet for those surplus products. It can also be an opportunity to establish standing orders. It can be a market for, your second, so your imperfect products that aren't gonna, do well in a retail market or other types of channels. So farm school buyers can be a really critical piece of a farmer's overall revenue stream. And then we often talk about this multiplier effect, right? So when you're investing, when you spend $1 within your community, that dollar is not, that economic benefit has multiplier impacts, right? It helps to create jobs. The people working those jobs are then, that money stays within the community and it circulates within your local community. And then there's also the potential to increase food security and support healthy families. And if there's a lot of times you'll see special events focused around farm to school community dinners, weekend events, farm visits. So there's lots of ways for community to be involved in farm to school beyond just the students getting the food during their lunchtime. So what does farm to school programming look like in Washington? So this is kind of a short list of the ways that the WSDA Regional Markets Program supports farm to school. For over 10 years now, we've had an annual promotion day called Taste Washington Day. This takes place the first Wednesday of every month of October. October is known as National Farm to School Month. So we do a lot of promotion around this time. And essentially the way Taste Washington Day works is we do a call out to schools, a call out to farmers. They sign up basically by filling out a form telling us that they're going to serve a Washington grown food. They're going to host an apple crunch, which is a kind of a fun way to celebrate the apple harvest in Washington. And then we do some matchmaking. So we'll share, okay, schools are going to participate. These farmers are going to participate. We'll connect them to each other so that they can coordinate a special meal or sales to highlight local foods on that day. We provide trainings and workshops. We're available. Our program team is available for one-on-one technical assistance for both schools and farms. A lot of what that looks like is helping schools navigate the procurement process. So understanding how they can use their school dollars to actually make these direct local purchases from farms. And on the farm side, it's kind of understanding what the school environment is like and what might be different, or what are the kind of unique challenges of selling to school districts when it comes to potentially menuing or meal patterns or delivery requirements, insurance, especially if this is the first time that a farm has sold into a wholesale market, not understanding packaging, what a school might need, invoicing requirements, making sure they're getting paid for their food, which is something that comes up a lot and is really important for the farms. We create a number of fact sheets and tools. A couple of key publications are here, and I'll highlight them on another slide. We've also done research over the years conducting farm to school surveys to try and get a snapshot of how many schools are participating in farm to school. Are they buying local food? Do they have school gardens? Are they offering food and nutrition education? And how is that changing, and where are the barriers, and how can we help to address some of those challenges to make it easier for schools and farms to connect with each other. Over the years, we've also written grants to support special projects. I'll talk about a couple of those in a later slide. And then most recently, we received funding from the state to offer farm to school purchasing grants. Budget is often the number one barrier. School food authorities have very, very limited budgets to fund their entire school food program. And it usually comes down to cents in terms of the actual per meal cost that they can spend on food. And so being able to fit local, farm fresh, high quality food into a school menu can be a real challenge. So these purchasing grants help to offset the cost or cover the cost of local food purchases to make more of this purchasing possible. So just to give kind of a brief overview, the WSDA Farm to School program was established under the Local Farms Healthy Kids Act back in 2008. So we've been around for quite a long time. And that was really as a result of community-led advocacy that wanted to see more support for farm to school at the the state level. Throughout our history, as I mentioned, the program has offered a variety of trainings, workshops, also really focused on networking, creating spaces and opportunities for farmers and buyers to come together and connect with each other. One of our earliest resources was the Farm to School toolkit. This is an online toolkit that has pages for school buyers, it has pages for farmers, and lots of tools and templates and resources to help folks navigate the farm to school process. We have helped to support statewide summits for farmers in schools. In 2014, one of our key publications, A School's Guide to Purchasing Washington Grown Food and Local Food Directories, were published. They've since been updated in some new ways. The Washington State Farm to School Network was formed and launched back in 2018. This is a statewide network of a whole range of farm to school stakeholders and partners, including producers, school food buyers, school garden educators, teachers, SNAP Ed supporters, folks that touch farm to school in a myriad of ways to really connect with each other. And I'll talk a little more about the network as well. And then I mentioned the grants that the funding for the grants that became available in 2021. And then just in the last couple of years, we've been able to host Farm to School and Scratch Cooking Institutes, so helping districts expand their skills and food service staff to expand their scratch cooking skills to be able to make use of more local foods. And then currently we're in the middle of a Farm to School Roadshow connecting school buyers and local producers, which is kind of a traveling training and networking event that we're doing across the state. So lots of different types of farm to school activities. I'm pointing these out as kind of two places to go if you want to dive deeper into the toolkit and the School's Guide to Purchasing Washington Grown Food. These both live on the WSDA website. The short link is agr.wa.gov/farm-to-school. And you'll see the image circled on the left will pop up for Schools for Farmers. And then we also have a Washington Grown Recipe Toolkit, which is a great resource to find recipes that integrate local foods. And then the School's Guide is a longstanding procurement guide that helps school districts understand how to plan and execute their local food purchases. I mentioned the network. So the Farm to School Network is based off of a collective impact model, and current to date has over 450 members from all different sectors. The network is organized around regional hubs, communities of practice, and network action teams. And so the idea is that it creates a framework for people engaged in farm to school to be able to connect with each other, either through peer-to-peer learning. So those community of practices are focused on these specific farm to school topics. So folks engaged in, for example, farm to early learning, or local food and school meals, or those doing school gardens and farm-based education, can connect, learn, ask questions, share resources. Each of these communities of practice has a dedicated listserv. There are also volunteer co-leads that facilitate conference calls. Currently, some of these are more or less active than others. It's really a volunteer-led initiative for those that participate in the network. And then the network action teams are really focused on supporting and furthering the mission of the Farm to School Network. And so this comes through collecting metrics and sharing out the story of Farm to School, whether the impact that that Farm to School is having in Washington, supporting outreach and advocacy. And then the network coordination team is a body that meets monthly to help support the activities of these different groups within the network. And then the network is also organized by regional hubs. So if you go onto our website, or onto the network, not our website, the Washington Farm to School Network website, you can see a list of all of the members by region, which is a great way to kind of connect. You want to know who's working on school gardens in your area, or is there a farm interested in selling to a school district? You can go onto the website, look at all the different regional hubs, and see who has signed up. Just briefly, I'm going to run through kind of what the network has identified as the visions and goals for Farm to School. These were the visions that were originally identified at the network launch. So for school gardens, it's supporting a school garden or farm in every school that wants one. For local food sourcing, it's increasing the amount of local and Washington produced foods purchased and served by K-12 schools. For education, the goal is to increase student understanding of where food comes from through education about food, agriculture, and nutrition. And then for Farm to ECE, which is early care and education, it's increasing the number of early childhood education programs that incorporate Farm to School. So the idea behind this network model is that every member of the network is engaging in Farm to School in their own way. And collectively, those activities are helping to achieve the goals that have been outlined here. And so these are just going a little deeper into some of the strategic priorities. Developing a school garden sustainability model and funding. So how do we actually create more school gardens in every school that wants one? How do we increase local food sourcing? By increasing collaboration and dialogue between farmers and schools. Increasing education through a statewide Harvest of the Month program, and then raising awareness among Farm to ECE providers. So these are the priorities that the different communities of practice have been working on to try and achieve their goals. I'm gonna probably just this next slide. Some of these were updated, and so just to kind of, I won't go through these in full detail, but just to kind of give you a sense that the network is constantly evolving as far as what are the goals and the priorities, and how are individual members seeing the work that they do really contributing to advancing the overall network goals in these key areas. So some of these things have happened, some of them are currently happening, some of them are future vision for what could happen with network members and participation. If you are interested in learning more about the network, we are planning a statewide gathering on Friday, June 9th in Wenatchee. In these slides is information on how to sign up to join the network and then to get more information about this event. Just want to do a quick time check. Okay, I've got a few more slides and then we'll stop for questions. So I also wanted to just highlight kind of the most recent addition to our Farm to School program, which is the Farm to School purchasing grants that was made possible through a $5 million allocation from the state legislature in this current biennium. We do expect these funds to be ongoing. And so the goals around this grant were really to address the budgetary constraints that districts face in purchasing local foods and to increase direct sourcing from a diverse group of Washington farmers and food producers, while increasing the variety and volume of local foods purchased for school meals and childcare programs. So what we were able to do with this money was award over $4.5 million to over 90 grantees in the last 2 years. These grantees represent both a mix of school districts and childcare centers. And we have information on our website for producers on how to connect with districts and centers that have received these funds. A lot of them still have money left to spend before the end of June 30th, which is when the grant period ends. So if you go to our Farm to School website, there's a tab at the top in the menu that says grants. And then from there, you can download a list of all of the grantees. It's organized by county. And then further down, there's a menu of options, and it says for producers. And there's a contact list that's available where just grantees that have agreed to let us share out their information for the purposes of connecting with growers is available. So you can download that as well. Another new resource that we're really excited about is Eat Local First Washington Food and Farm Finder, specifically the wholesale directory. This has been in development in the last couple of years. It launched right around the time that the purchasing grants launched, and really is kind of a consolidation of a lot of those previous regional food and farm directories. And so we're really excited about this tool as a way to make it easier for institutional buyers, school buyers in particular, to find the types of farms and farm products that they're looking for, as well as for, oh yeah, it's unidirectional at this point. There isn't a way for farms to find buyers, but it's a great tool for buyers to find farms. And then just to kind of give you a quick snapshot of the current grantees by location. So we have lots of districts in Western Washington and the Puget Sound region, a little bit in the Southwest, and then kind of a smattering in Eastern Washington. And so we're really kind of, in terms of future rounds of grant funding, really want to emphasize and prioritize parts of the state where we've seen less activity around farm to school, or districts that haven't had the opportunity to do much of this sourcing quite yet. This is a high level, just to give you a sense of, this is from the first round, the first year. So this is just January through August of last year. What schools bought with their farm to school dollars. We obviously saw a lot of apples. We also saw a lot of local beef, which was interesting to see, just the quality of local beef that schools are able to get compared to the commodity products that they get through the USDA Foods program. It's really night and day. And so it's also a product that's available year round. You'll notice there's a lot of fruit on here on this list of top 10 products, but that it does include frozen and dried. And so districts are often looking for value-added products that they can source throughout the school year. So for farms that are interested in doing any sort of minimally processing or value-added processing, that's a huge benefit for accessing school markets. So a lot of what we see here, these cherries, those are dried cherries, not fresh cherries. And the pears are probably fresh. A lot of the berries are frozen as well. And microgreens kind of made a surprising appearance, especially last spring when we had really cold, wet, rainy weather on the western side of the state. But grown in a greenhouse, those were available to schools to purchase. So we're almost done here. I just wanted to leave you all with some notes on how to get involved if you're interested in learning more about farm to school, or would like to get connected to a school or a program that's doing farm to school work. I'll encourage you to join the Farm to School Network. It's a great way to just stay up to date, be added to the listservs, see what's happening, and you plug in however and whenever makes sense to you. Reaching out to your local school district if you are a producer or you are looking to help support and coordinate local farm to school purchasing. OSPI has this great map where you can look at the entire state by county, and if you hover over a county, all the different school districts will pop up. And the person that you're going to want to connect with is the food service director or somebody in the child nutrition services. That map won't give you that person, but it'll at least give you the name of the district and the website typically. And then you can usually go and find the school nutrition page from there. But also usually you can look at school menus, which is always fun to see what's being served. If you are a producer, we're always encouraging folks to create or update a listing on the Washington Food and Farm Finder, the wholesale finder, and can connect you with someone at Eat Local First if you need assistance with that. We welcome you to attend a future farm to school training or event when those happen. And then the other way is there's a lot, we were talking before this call, how there's been a really tremendous investment in local and regional food systems, specific and a lot really in the farm to school space in the last couple of years. Largely, I think, as a result of the pandemic and the light that has shed on our food security and our food system resiliency. And so one exciting potential change that's happening at the federal level right now is USDA, which administers all the child nutrition programs, is proposing changes to their child nutrition standards. And included in one of those changes is allowing schools to include local as a specification when they're going out to bid for products, so that they can actually say, we're requiring this food to be locally grown, raised, or caught. Currently, that's not allowed, which is one of the challenges, one of the barriers that can make it difficult for schools to purchase local. They have to find other ways of targeting or coming up with different types of specifications to be able to make those purchases. So this is an open comment period. If you, there's a link in the slide here to more information about that proposed change and how to leave a comment if that's something that you would like to do. I believe it closes April 10th. That's coming up relatively soon. Another key change that's proposed is to support schools that are serving primarily American Indian and Alaska Native children, offering more culturally appropriate food. So we're seeing increased emphasis on being culturally responsive in our school meal programs. And there's lots of restrictions on the types of foods that can be served in school meals. And so this is an opportunity, especially for, huge implications for a state like Washington, with large number of federally recognized tribes and communities serving to be able to serve more traditional and indigenous foods. So that is what I have for today. This overview of Farm to School and what's happening in Washington State. This last slide, I just wanted to add. So our team right now is myself as the Farm to School lead, and then Claire Finnerty, who coordinates the purchasing grants program. We work under Laura Raymond, who's the program manager for the WSDA Regional Markets team, and we are your go-to at WSDA for all things Farm to School.
Fantastic. What a lot of great information. We'd like to just open it up for questions now. And so feel free to just jump in or raise your little hand icon if you want, or put your question in the chat if you're feeling shy to speak. Yeah, I'll just pause for a second if anybody wants to jump in. Of course, I have a ton of questions. All right, just let us know. You don't even have to turn on your camera. Just jump in. So I'm so excited to hear about all the great developments, and especially the additional funding for for school districts to purchase more fresh food, because like you said, the budget limitations seem to be really one of the hugest barriers to districts participating in Farm to School. And another barrier I know is just their ability to process food in-house and the amount of labor time that takes. And you mentioned if farms can do some value-added processing, that really helps the schools. I'm wondering about what you're seeing in terms of trends. Are you seeing more farms doing value-added on farm? Are you seeing more local processing facilities? Are you seeing districts getting more equipment in-house to process in their own kitchens? Tell a little bit about how that's working out these days.
Without having done a formal assessment, I would say I think
the anecdotal side.
Anecdotal, yes. I would say we're seeing a little bit of everything that you mentioned. So I'll start on the school end. So with the purchasing grants, in the first year, the funds were only allowed to be used for food purchases. And the second year, we expanded the grant program to include kitchen equipment that would support their use of more local foods. And that could be everything from real basics like chef knives and cutting boards so that they could do more processing in-house. It could include commercial mixers. So we've seen folks purchase stand mixers so that they can do their own baking with local grains and local flours. We've seen tilt skillets, industrial food processors to make sauces, smoothies, using local yogurt, local berries. So we are seeing investments at the district, at the school level, and at the district level. Of course, that depends on a lot of other factors as well. It depends on the their stat, like their labor. School districts, like everyone the last 2 years, have really struggled to retain and keep staffing. So most school districts are a lot of school districts in Washington are understaffed, which of course makes it even harder to run at this type of farm to school program. But by making these investments in small equipment, they can certainly process things a lot faster and make, they're not going to necessarily do this every day, but maybe once a week or once a month, that they can bring in a whole product or a special farm product and have the equipment that they need to be able to serve it. So we are seeing some investments on the school side. We are also, through another grant program at WSDA, we were able to offer meat processing grants as well as local food system infrastructure grants. And we've actually seen some really nice synergy between farms and producers that have received those grants that are also engaging in farm to school sales and using their grants to be able to create value added products. So one example, Puget Sound Food Hub has a partnership with Cloud Mountain Farm Center, and they are putting in, I believe it's a blast freezer and some new processing equipment to be able to create chopped greens, cube squash, these types of products that are aligned well with the school market. Schools can never have enough frozen berries. So if you grow berries or process berries, I was talking with a farmer yesterday that received a value added producer grant, which are out right now. And so that's another great resource, and is looking at doing some freezing of their berries so they can also maintain markets year round. So I'd say it's a little bit of everything right now, just based on the different funding streams that are coming in and what producers and schools have access to.
Great. And if anybody else wants to jump in, I'll go with another question while got the time. So you just mentioned berries as a good year-round item. And I'm just wondering what kind of novel items you've seen districts adding to their menus to have something local in the winter, and so many of the months where it's really hard to get food. I mean, April and May are not easy either. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned microgreens, which was kind of an interesting one. We weren't expecting that, but something fresh that can be grown year round. We've also seen with the purchasing grants, also because of the high value of these products, a lot of local proteins. So different cuts or varieties of beef, ground beef, stew beef. We've been seeing a lot of sausages, breakfast sausages or sausage links, poultry, whole chickens or chicken parts. So, which is, again, not every school district is set up to cook meat from scratch, or either has the equipment, the infrastructure, or the skilled labor to be able to do that. School kitchens are licensed by the local health department, and they're licensed for specific activities, and every local health department is different. And so if they do not, some kitchens are only licensed for heat and serve. And so if they want to start cooking from scratch, then they need to go to their local health department and get the appropriate permits for that. So it's not like let's just start doing this kind of thing. A lot of local yogurt and cheese has been another one. Again, a product available year round. Frozen berries, dried fruit has been a big one. Squashes, I mean, for those that are able to do processing and have central kitchens. So when, winter greens, squashes, a lot of carrots, onions, potatoes, things that are staples in a school menu or in a school kitchen. We've also been seeing really interesting kind of full partnerships between schools and local bakeries and local mills. So for example, on the east side over in Spokane, there's a small shop called Bread Box, and they buy local flour and they bake all their breads in-house. And there's a lot of very, very small school districts out there. And so they've started going to the Bread Box and said, hey, could you, we have this grant, at least 51% of the flour has to be from Washington. Could you create a product for us that meets our nutrition requirements to be served in school meals, whole grains, sodium, sugar, et cetera. And they said, sure, great. And so basically now this local bakery has created a local product tailored to the schools that are in their community to be able to meet that need. And the schools are able to support this local bakery. And we're seeing that here in Western Washington as well. One example is Bellingham School District buys focaccia and other breads from Avenue Bread, which sources local grains from local flours from Cairn Spring Mills. So that's been another cool thing to see develop through these grants. And some of that activity was happening already. And in some ways, the grant program just allowed further growth and larger volume purchasing and production of these types of products.
That's great. I know distribution is always an issue, especially with those smaller districts, and how to get food to them affordably from local farms. It's a lot to ask of a farm. I'm wondering what you're seeing that is helping to solve that issue, and the role of food hubs in that as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I didn't show this in the slides, but we do track sort of how food gets from how districts are purchasing, whether they're purchasing Washington foods through a distributor, through a food hub, or direct from the farm, or some other, if they're going to a processor or another retail outlet. And in the first period of the grant, about 50% of Washington products were still sourced through a distributor, and that could be regional distributor like Charlie's or a broadliner that includes Washington products. But then we saw about 20% of products being purchased through a food hub, and about 25% of products being purchased directly from farms. So on the food hub side, that definitely for larger school districts can be a real benefit, because they're needing higher volumes that one farm might not be able to supply. So the food hubs in their role have this great role of being able to aggregate product from lots of small farms to be able to meet the higher volume needs of larger school districts. It can be challenging on the flip side, however, though, for small school districts that don't need that much product and aren't able to meet the minimums of a food hub, or in some cases, it depends on where the school district needs delivery. So sometimes some school districts have a central kitchen or a central warehouse, and everything that they receive goes to one location, which is ideal. In other cases, they could have 15, 20, 30 kitchens, satellite kitchens, or schools throughout their city or region that need deliveries, and that's nobody can make that work. And so then it's kind of figuring out, all right, well, we're not going to get local product at every single school on the same day at the same time, but we're going to do a special harvest of the month at these 3 schools, and we'll get delivery here on Monday, and then another day we'll do it at these other schools. And so it does take a lot of planning, a lot of coordination, a lot of logistics. In some cases, we've also seen this happen. We're seeing this in the Northeast Washington, so north of Spokane, where a food hub link is delivering to another community partner, Rural Resources Community Action, and then Rural Resources is running a truck on what I believe is an 8-hour route up to Ferry County, Stevens County, doing pickups and deliveries to schools and farms. So there's, to make these farm to school relationships happen, there's a lot of people, it's a lot of logistics, a lot of coordination. It takes a lot of time to figure these things out. But the food hubs play a really, really critical role, I would say, especially in being able to connect small farms that don't have their own distribution or ability to make trips into, into cities or urban centers where schools are located. David, I see your hand up.
Yes, excuse me. Thank you for your time. And just exactly what you talked about in the last portion, that for smaller farmers like us, how do we benefit from this program? And number two, because most of us are minority immigrants and we're growing in our own small scale, and distribution, probably leasing more land to grow food can be a challenge. So I don't know if there is any specific ways in which some of these opportunities are availed to our organizations to support the work that we do. I work with a group called Wakulima. And then number two, I wanted to ask about the conference that's going to be in Wenatchee. Is that the only one, or are we going to have one that is closer here? And the reason why I'm asking is because most of our farmers who would want to attend find it very expensive to go all the way to Wenatchee unless they got scholarships for that or something like that. So probably just how can we support our kind of small organizations succeed in bringing relevant foods? For example, most of our community members have halal foods that we can grow that on a larger scale, it becomes difficult to compete, let's say, with people like Charlie's Northwest Harvest. They're so huge and they just come and swallow all the produce that that is in the market. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, David, thank you. Those are good questions. There's definitely a place in farm to school for smaller farms, especially if you're growing or have kind of more specialty items. Schools are, and really, I think that what the opportunity comes down to is building a relationship with your local school district and finding that fit for your product. So given the whatever it is that you're growing, it's a conversation with the food service director to kind of see where could this fit into their meal program. Do they want to do a special feature, a special day, a single purchase, or a couple of recurring small purchases, but understanding can they come and pick up the product, or is there a located one school or one site that's not too far away from where your growers are located, so that it's not an undue burden on you to make that delivery to the district. It's really about finding that right fit and that right match. So if you're, depending on where you're located, it's really starting with who are the districts in my area and who can I reach out to? And that's also what we're here for. So, I mean, you and I we could schedule a phone call after this to kind of understand, for me to understand what it is that the products that you grow, and say, okay, yeah, I think these are some districts that might be interested in these products, and here are the key people to talk to. We also, so I would say it's a process. It's a process, and not every product is going to be a fit for every school. And it's finding the districts that where the school buyers are really interested in developing those relationships. So a lot of time, that takes a while to get to know folks and for them to get to know you. Your question about Wenatchee. So Wenatchee is it's a statewide gathering for the Farm to School Network. So it's more than just it's more than just the food purchasing piece. That includes school gardeners and educators, as well as school nutrition folks and producers. It's a little bit outside of WSDA. WSDA is providing support to that event, but it's geared towards this Farm to School network. What we are doing on our end is, I mentioned the Farm to School Roadshow, and I think actually you're coming to the event tomorrow down in Tumwater. So we are trying to coordinate more local regional opportunities for school buyers and farmers to meet and network with one another. So this year, in this month, we were in Spokane, Mount Vernon, and Tumwater. And then that's what we're able to do right now. And then moving forward, we'll be looking at other areas, making sure we're getting into some of the smaller communities, more rural parts of Washington state that we weren't able to reach in this first round. But I'd be happy to have another follow-up conversation one-on-one to talk more about opportunities for small farms to work with school districts.
Thank you.
Would you like to address Faith's question about how do I get more information about the event in Wenatchee?
Sorry, I just didn't want to interrupt. That's why I was like, I got to type this so that I can remember.
Yeah, the best thing to do for that is to, I'm going to just drop the link into the chat here, would be to sign up for the network. So you get added to the email list. And then this is also the network website. So when we have more information, it should be posted here on this website. So we're still in the process of securing a venue and getting some of the details finalized. So for now, all the information is save the date for June 9th. And then when registration is ready, that we'll be sending it out through here. And we can also share it with NABC and to share out perhaps with folks on this call or through your networks and channels as well.
Yeah, do let us do share that information with us and we'll definitely pass it on. That's great. Any other questions, Faith, or anybody?
I was going to ask this, but I wanted to give time for other people. But since nobody else has been stepping up, I'll ask. So I am kind of, Marty knows me really well. We work as a local farm based out of a church. And so we give away everything that we grow to local food banks and stuff like that. So this isn't necessarily a question about that, but as a parent of children who attend a school that does not have any garden programs or anything like that, where do you get a lot of your research? And I loved all the slides you were showing and stuff. I would love to take that. We've been trying to get one set up out in Blaine for a long time, and it's just hitting a lot of brick walls. So I feel like it would be really great to have good facts about that.
So a couple of places I'll send you. I mean, first of all, you're welcome to use my presentation and take it to your school board or school district and say, here's some cool stuff that how can we make this happen here? On the WSDA Farm to School Toolkit, I'm just grabbing the link. We do have a small section on school gardens, as well as school wellness policies, which is kind of a good place to start. School gardens and farms. So there's some information here, and then you could also look on for the Farm to School network. I'm just kind of showing you this is how to make use of these resources. And then if you go to the network website, there's the contacts for school gardens and farm-based education, community of practice, and then finding members near you. So you're Blaine, so you're up in North Carolina. So if you go to this link, I guess maybe I'll just share my screen so you can see what I'm doing. So talking through it. Okay, you all see this? No, I haven't hit share yet. Okay, now can you see this? Okay. So I am on, this is the website of the Washington State Farm to School Network. At the top here, you can click join the network to sign up, connect statewide. These are the different communities of practices that I mentioned. Farm to ECE is very robust. They had some funding to help build out this page. So there's a lot more resources here. If you go to the school gardens and farm-based education page, it just has a brief overview of what this group is. Hasn't been updated in a little while, but you can go back and you can see notes or view past meetings of this group, which might be useful to you. And then on the WSDA website, I thought I had it up here. Oh, article yesterday. I don't know where it went. So if you go to the Farm to School Toolkit here, we have a section on school gardens and farms, and I'll drop this link into the chat. There's a list of activities in education, food safety, grants and funding, examples from other parts of Washington. So this is where I'd recommend starting. And then the other thing I was going to say is to look at your region. So I was showing you connect statewide, and then you can find members. So then if you go to the Northwest region, you can see who in your county is engaged in Farm to School and in what way. That could be another place to start reaching out to folks and building partnerships and seeing who wants to be involved.
Thank you. What a wealth of
Yeah.
resources. Got. All right. Well, we're just about at noon. Are there any last comments by anybody here? Okay. I'd just like to let you know that we don't have an exact date for our next Lunch and Learn, but we do have the topic. It's going to be kind of the grand reveal of the new